My name's Matt Nethersole, and I graduated from Sheridan College in 2010. And I was in the original workshop of Come From Away.
When did you first hear about Come From Away? How did it start?
Well, I heard they were doing this original musical with the Canadian Music Theatre Project, which is under the umbrella of Sheridan College Music Theatre, and it was about this insane event that happened where the generosity of the Newfoundland people was really exemplified when hundreds of planes were forced to emergency land in Gander. So I bought a book on Amazon about it and started reading about it, and I couldn't believe that these were true events. And the audition, David Ferry, the first director, it's all verbatim theater, which for those who don't know, it means it's actual quotes from real people, and that those pieces that we used to audition with were actually a lot more raw and unedited. They were the first ever drafts, and there was a real humanity and a real kind of grassroots energy to the piece that I was really drawn to. And I remember I had to do an Arab accent and an African accent and a Newfoundland accent all in one audition, which I'd never done before. And I thought, this is going to be a really cool project.
So were you auditioning for Come From Away or Sweeney Todd?
Come From Away.
Come From Away.
I don't think, I auditioned for both, I think, but my Come From Away audition was more memorable. Yeah.
Hey girls.
What do you remember about your first meeting with David Hine and Irene Sankoff?
Oh, I just remember thinking they were so sweet, so nice, very warm and open-hearted, and they're a couple, right? So there's this kind of connection between the two of them and an ease between the two of them that kind of transfers to you. I mean, an audition panel is not always the warmest group of people you're going to be in front of, but with David and Irene, it felt collaborative, and it felt like they were trying to bring the best of us out, even in the audition. It felt safe. Yeah.
What characters did you play?
I can't remember the exact names. I played so many, but I played the bus driver from Africa. The bus person from Africa in the show, and I played one of the gentlemen in Tim Hortons, and I played a pilot, and I played, and I think I played the Muslim character as well. No, I didn't. Actually, no, that was someone else. I think I read for it, but I didn't end up playing it. It was just kind of piecemeal. Matt, do you want to grab this? Matt, do you want to grab that? We used to joke in an Australian accent all the time, and that year was like an inside joke, and then we were doing it, and David actually put that in the show. So if you listen to the original cast recording, there's a really bad Australian accent done by me on that one. So this one character I played.
What was the schedule like?
Oh, those were long days. Those were like 8-hour days, and it actually wasn't meant to be a full workshop or a full performed presentation. It was just meant to be books and stands, just reading the piece. But we had weeks and weeks to rehearse it. So David Ferry is thinking, we can't, and we were all in college, we were like chomping at the bit to do something, and he's thinking, well, I can't just have these kids sitting here practicing reading from a book for 8 hours a day. I got to give them something to do. But there was no budget, so we couldn't have any production value. So we just ended up using what was in the room to tell the story, which was office spinny chairs, tables, music stands, markers, pencils, and to this day the original production actually uses chairs to create planes and all other kinds of formations, and that was actually something that David originated, and the choreography with the chairs we all kind of collaborated on to create something, a low budget way to tell the story, and it ended up being kind of the best way to tell the story.
So in the cast of Come From Away there are currently 12 people. How about your workshop? How many people were involved?
Oh gosh, I can't remember. I would guess maybe maybe 15 of us kids.
What was it like to be a part of the creation of this new musical?
We had so much hope for it. We thought what it has ended up becoming is everything and more we ever thought it would be. And everyone said, this is one of the first times the Canadian Music Theatre Project conceived an original work or commissioned an original work. And they said this, and a lot of people were saying, well, we want to be in the big musical that's already been done before, because we know it, we know the music. And Greg Peterson, who was the program coordinator at the time, said, no, this is your chance to originate a role. Your name will be in the book forever. When they do the research or they do documentaries about it, you'll have an impact on what this show becomes. And David and Irene have even said in the past, thank you to all those college kids in GBO 304, Sheridan College, for what you brought to the piece, because it helped them to elucidate their ideas and it helped them to see the piece. And some of those original things that we came up with are in the show forever. So I think I've strayed from the question, but the show became everything and more that we thought it would be. So it was a real moving experience when they invited us all to the opening, or the media opening in Toronto before it went to Broadway, and it had just come from La Jolla, and I was moved to tears to see it come to fruition that way and to have been with it from the very beginning. It was a really emotional experience because you don't think these kinds of things are possible always, and it really showed what is possible. And I think it's the generosity of the human spirit that's in the DNA of the text that has really propelled this piece to become a kind of part of the cultural mosaic of music theater, and I think of pop culture now.
How much did the show change from the workshop to the,
the real heartbeat of it is the same. The Kevins were in there, the Islamic character and the prejudice he faced in that narrative was in there. The fear, the African community that's trying to fly somewhere and they were refugees, like that piece is in the piece still today. Bonnie, the SPCA worker, that's actually pretty close to all the chimpanzees. I think it's her listing off all the different animals that she's got to take care of and keep alive and get out of the cages. Yeah, the real heartbeat of the show is still there. It's mostly just kind of cuts and little tweaks I think they've done.
were there any songs like Washington that were deleted?
My memory's horrible. I remember like the general feeling of it. The songs that stick out to me are Somewhere in the Middle of Nowhere, in the Middle of Somewhere. That one sticks in my head. And Welcome to the Rock. Those are the two that stick in my head. Other than that, I don't remember. It was college. It was a crazy time.
How did you deal with the daily delivery of new material? New music is constantly rewritten and you have to memorize new stuff.
Well, it was actually, in Canada, we don't really have the resources to really incubate new work. So what ends up happening is a rehearsal is also a workshop, is also a world premiere, is also a 3-week run, is also panned by the Toronto Star. You know what I mean? Because of course a lot of these new works get panned and we're hypercritical of them because it takes years and years and rewrites. Like they say you don't write a musical, you rewrite a musical or a play. And we don't always have the infrastructure to do that in Canada. So what we ended up doing in Come From Away, I've had to do at least 4 times in my career as a professional. I've done it here. We did the Horse and His at the Shaw Festival. We did the Horse and His Boy, and it was the exact same kind of process. Every day, new pages. Take out your old pages. Page 33 is cut to page. Jump from page 33 to page 46. Everything in the middle is cut. There's all that kind of stuff. And every day you show up, and it becomes a very kind of intellectual exercise. You become a script coordinator. Everyone is their own script coordinator, and everyone's script looks completely different. We all have kind of the same map, but And then what ends up getting said on stage is not necessarily what's in the final draft. So it's thrilling, it's frustrating, it's stressful, but you also end up having a lot of ownership over the final product, because when things are that up in the air, you feel more empowered to say, I got a suggestion. And at that point, a lot of the time, the creators are like, anything, what is it? Yes, fine, do it. And it's in the show. So it really did prepare me for workshopping new work in Canada.
How do you deal with this kind of pressure?
Actors are an interesting breed. There's not a lot of security in what we do, so we're not always really able to advocate for, and that's starting to change, but basically you don't have choice. And there's 40 people behind you who want to take your job if you can't handle the pressure, so you make it work. And it's not, and I mean, that's a really kind of practical way of looking at it, but there's also, we're not pushing paper here, you know, we're not just clocking in 9 to 5 waiting for the day to be over to go home. Like, this is our passion, this is what we love to do, this is what we believe in, so we have a vested interest in making it work. And we know as an ensemble and as a group of people working on a piece, I've been lucky to be in a lot of groups where we know the more we pull together, the more we collaborate, the more we keep our temperaments even, the better the work will be. And you end up filling in the gaps and picking up the slack and using your instincts and filling moments out, and it kind of ends up just working. So, and that goes back to, you know, the ownership you feel over it. And then, you know, something you created, you kind of put in there, and you don't know if it's even going to make any sense, and you don't even know if the director wants you to do that, but you're taking some initiative, and then it gets a reaction from the audience the first time you try it, and you go, hey, that's kind of cool. It's kind of better than that paint by numbers, just getting told what to do, actually. So there's pros and cons.
Why did you choose Sheridan College?
Sheridan College, what I remember there was a kind of informational video that came to my drama class, and it showed what was available, and everybody told me that it was the best school for it, and I didn't really know a lot about music theater or theater programs, and I was going to go to university, and I only just auditioned for one theater school, just to say I have it as an option, but I was going to go to university. And I went to Sheridan for the audition, not knowing much about it, and as soon as I was there, I was like, this is the place for me. People were dancing in the hallways, and people were singing, and everyone was kind of telling me about how the school works, and the people were vibrant and interesting, and I thought, this is way cooler than university, so I want to go here. And then I got in, and I didn't really look back after that.
What were your next steps after graduation? How did you end up working here at Show Festival?
You come here on a school trip with Sheridan in your second year, and Kelly Wong, who's here this year, and Jonathan Tan, who's here this year as well, they both went to Sheridan, facilitated my talk back after the show, and they were talking about the culture here, and I thought, wow, this is like a utopia for actors. Like, this is, what a gig, what a dream gig. And this is me at 19. And I thought, wow, I hope I get to work there one day. And then, sure enough, I auditioned once, didn't get in the first time, and then I went in again, and I got a call, and they said, we'd like you to be in Sweet Charity and Pygmalion, and that was 2015. And I haven't been here every year since. I was here in 2015, I went to Stratford in 2016, I took a year off from the festivals in 2017, and then I came back last year to do Grand Hotel and Magician's Nephew, and this year I'm doing The Horse and His Boy and Brigadoon.
What do you wish you knew when you were just starting out, applying to Sheridan?
Trust your instincts. I say that to all young artists. Formal education is great. And there's so much to be learned, but nobody can teach you the things as an artist you intuitively know and you intuitively yearn to express. And that's why we become actors is because we want to express ourselves, and truly you are the expert on yourself. No one can tell you who you are or how to evoke that truthfully. And when you're young, I certainly came in and said, I have no idea how to do that. Someone has to tell me how, and I have to follow all the steps and do it right. Be messy, be splashy, be bold, make mistakes, be courageous, be weird, people don't always even know as audiences what they want until you show it to them. So if you're just trying to be the thing that you think people are going to like, your work will never be interesting. And I'm still trying to learn that as an actor and as an artist now. You take everything with a grain of salt, put it through your own artistic filter of whether or not that has integrity for you or works for you, but you are the true arbiter of your art as the person creating it. That's what I wish I knew.
What's the best advice you have been given?
That what I just said, no. The best advice I've been given, be humble and be grateful and be kind. Yeah, you know what it is? It's the people here. It's the like monolith, like mega stars at these festivals, and you see the way they interact with their dressers. The people who I admire the most, and with the crew, and with the people who can't really afford to do much of anything to get them further along on the road. So it doesn't really cost them, or it doesn't really benefit them in any way to be nice to these people, but it's the principle of it, and it's the integrity of it, and this is a collaborative art form. And that's, I think, the real test of your character as an actor is how you treat all the supporting players, because there's a lot of people who go into this to make this work, and we're just one part of the puzzle. And I love seeing, and it really inspires me to see the big stars just having so much grace and humility and love and kindness towards all the people who make this happen.
What do you like the most about being an actor?
I like how my life is unconventional. I like how I don't have to go to a 9 to 5 and go to a 9 to 5 and sit at a desk, and what we do is always kind of interesting and exciting. And sometimes a day for me is, yesterday my day was coming in, putting on a Victorian era dress that's completely quick changed up the back. It looks like it's all these layers and levels and petticoats, but you just step into it and someone zips you up the back. And then 6 other like amazing Victorian costumes for my understudy. We just had to make sure I fit into my understudy's costumes. And then I went home. That was my day. And then I came here and did a show. And I just thought, wow, this is so... You have those moments like that where you go, this is way better than working in an office. I just got to play dress up, make sure all the costumes fit, and then go have some lunch, and then come back and do a show. And also the people, the kind of people who are drawn to do this kind of work are so unconventional in the best ways, interesting lives and interesting stories and inspiring people and outsiders and people who don't look at the world and the way that we're told we're supposed to. And I think those are the people I want to be around for the rest of my life.
What's in your opinion the most common misconception about what you do as an actor?
Most common...
I mean, there are so many stereotypes about actors, right?
A lot of them are true. Yes, we drink a lot. Yes, we like free food. I think people don't realize how much work actually goes into it to get it to the product that you see. You don't see the behind the scenes, and you don't see an actor, like even the people who are behind the scenes don't see behind the scenes of this behind the scenes, which is, you going home to your house, manically pulling out your hair, having an identity crisis, not thinking you're good enough to do what you're doing, releasing that, getting back to work, memorizing a page of lines, and then going to bed. And then showing up the next day bright-eyed and ready to work. It's not that happens every night, but there's also a component to it mentally and spiritually where you have to go into and believe the lie you're telling yourself to a degree that your emotions start to come into play. And that level of self-deception, from a psychological, mental health sort of perspective, I don't think people necessarily know the toll that it takes. And you have to have a lot of systems in place for yourself to be able to separate yourself from the work and leave it on the stage and go home and be okay at the end of the day.
What's the most challenging component of acting?
Your own self-doubt, I would say. I think every single actor, I don't think there's a single actor that doesn't show up every once in a while and go, God, I'm a complete imposter. It's like, yeah, of course you're an imposter. It's your job to be an imposter. We're all professional imposters. But that imposter syndrome of being like, I'm not good enough, or I don't deserve to be here, or that person's better, like that, it's not like you have to not feel that way, you just have to know how to work around it. Because everybody is actually secretly feeling the same way. Like I talk to titans in this building. I'm lucky enough to get to be colleagues with some of the finest actors in Canada. And I was talking to one the other day and she was like, God, I was a mess in rehearsal today. That was horrific. I'm so disappointed in myself. So to know that people like that have those days too, it's reassuring.
Is there anything you would like to talk about, Matt?
I think I talked a lot. Yeah, I mean, to bring it back to Come From Away, it's our wildest dreams coming true for our piece. You know, we do workshops all the time as actors, and some of them are bad, and some of them are fantastic, and some of them are okay. And the good ones, you always hope, and even the bad ones, I hope they flesh this out. I hope they figure out what this piece is and how to make it touch people. And Come From Away did that, and then some, and then some, and then some, and to see it rise to this level of like global, international acclaim is a real point of pride for all of us, and mostly because of the story it tells. And I think we're at a place in the world where we want to be reminded of the goodness in each other. We want to know that that humanity still exists when there's so many atrocities that we commit towards each other. I think the world needs this story right now, and I think that's why it kind of propelled so quickly to the forefront of music theater and of culture, because I have to believe, to get up every day, that there is an inherent goodness in all of us, and sometimes we just forget about it. But in some people and in some cultures, like the people in Newfoundland, it's closer to the surface all the time. And if there's a story out there that is inspiring people, that exists, that the goodness of people exists, and reminds us that it's within ourselves as well, then, I mean, I'll champion that till the day I die.
And the last question, what do you remember the most about this Come From Away workshop? If you have to choose like one memory, something that really made you happy or proud and not touched you.
I knew that show was magic when we started performing it, because I had never, up until my experience at that point, and even now, as a professional, I had never seen such a consistent emotional response from an audience at the same points in the show, because every audience is different. Sometimes something gets a laugh, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people cry at a certain moment, sometimes they laugh. It's alchemy. You always get a different energy from a crowd, but it was very consistent when, even in those workshops in a dance studio with no props and no budget, on spinning chairs. People were up on their feet, standing ovation every single time, crying at the same moments every time, really laughing, really breathing. Really that kind of veil of audience and performer kind of started to dissipate, and there was this sort of human exchange that's in the writing and in the piece, and translates into the actual experience of watching the show. And I'd never felt that before, and I don't think I have ever felt it since. And the first time I felt that, I went, whoa, this show is something special. And it is.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is the end.